All right, baby. We are live. We are here to talk about your Denver Broncos, but we got to let it breathe for just a few beats while we get the Facebookers in here, and we're going to get things rocking and rolling. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast this Monday evening. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him. Back in the saddle. He's Zack Kelberman. Zach, dude, first and foremost, how was your weekend, big dog?
My weekend was it was okay, Chad. I had a good one. It's we're at a weird point right now in the NFL calendar, waiting between free agency and the draft, and I'm all about the news, so I'm still kind of hype on the Jaylen Waddle trade, and I'm like hitting my veins, waiting for more from the Broncos. But all is good for me. How about you?
Yeah, dude, it was a good weekend, and I liked that good things come to those who wait. We got a really good insider breakdown of how the Jaylen Waddle trade kind of unfolded, and there's so much to get into, but kind of curious. It didn't come from Mike Kliss. It came from a national insider in the form of Albert Breer of the mothership Sports Illustrated. And we should get into some of this stuff tonight because it's kind of interesting. I don't know how much everybody's read on that, but we're going to talk about it tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot of different layers as to how this trade came together, and I wrote about it for the website. You guys can read it; it's already published. But the Broncos did their due diligence. They considered every option. They cross-checked whether the trade would be fair for them or not, and then they finally pulled the trigger. So I'm really impressed after reading this, Chad, with how George Payton and Sean Payton went about this bombshell.
No doubt about it. It's going to be so good for the team. Some hellos, real quick, guys, before we get further into the conversation. Here we got the Papa Bear
Thank
checking
you,
in
David.
early, as is his way. Love you, big dog. Saying good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag God bless the USA. Hashtag Let's Go Bo. We need both those hashtags in full effect right now. That is for sure, brother. Good to see you, Papa Bear. Shouts to some of the members jumping in early. Mike Thompson, Kirsten, Taylor. What's good? Even on YouTube, the New Mexico man. What's up, dude? We'll talk about running back here in a little bit. We got Sam Bam jumping in early with a very
Thank you,
generous
Sam.
super chat.
Thank you,
All of
man.
these awesome comments and supers, by the way, before we even went live. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Don't think for a second we don't realize how lucky we are to have you guys as our community. So Sam Bam, bro, a dear member of Mount Rushmore Superstar, says, hey guys, after 2 weeks of free agency, is it looking like the Broncos will make any more roster ads, or are the next additions going to come via the draft? I also have a busted bracket. Sorry to hear, bro. Had Florida winning it all. Ugh. Anyhow, go Broncos. That's a good question, Zach. That's a really good question. Will the Broncos make any additional roster moves up to this point, specifically additions? Like you look at the roster, I broke this down today in an article. After the first 2 weeks of free agency, what positions, clearly got better, which ones are worse on paper anyway. And it was a pretty easy arithmetic, Zach, because there are two major losses and only two outside acquisitions. So it wasn't hard to deduce, but there's still some weaknesses. So are the Broncos, you think, just aiming for the draft or what?
Yeah, first of all, Sam, thank you so much for your generosity as you show us each and every day. Sorry to hear that about your bracket. It's been a weird March Madness so far, but we've had people ask us both on here and on Twitter whether the Broncos are done making any more splash moves like with the Waddle trade. I do think they're done with that. That was the one they were going to make, and they pulled it off excellently. I don't know, though, if they're done overall making additions. I think they could pick up maybe a backup tackle or another reserve player somewhere, but I don't think they're going to get a David Njoku on the open market. The majority of the roster construction from this point forward is, as you said there, through the draft.
And even going back to the Albert Breer piece on the Jaylen Waddle trade, you see how much the expectation of those comp picks coming in next year, how important they are to the Broncos. And we talked a little bit about this last night in the solo show, which, by the way, I don't mind going solo. I love talking to everybody. There's only one thing that I have a hard time with, Zach, going solo, and that is wetting the whistle, man. I can't drink my tea as like consistently throughout, so I don't get quite the same lift. But I digress. My point here, Zach, is the comp picks, they're important. They don't want to mess up that formula. And one of the reasons they are so important to the Broncos is that the 2027 draft class is perceived at this moment in time as being significantly deeper, more talented than 2026. So I don't think they're going to do anything that might screw up that formula, which probably puts guys like Cam Jordan and trying to think who else. I mean, tight end, David Njoku. They're just not going to make that level of signings. If they make additional moves, it's probably Tyson Anderson level moves.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's low level moves, backups just to 50 to fill the 90-man offseason roster and then to fill the 53 final man roster. So, yeah, low level moves for now. If you're hoping for a Njoku or a Bobby Okereke or someone like that, I wouldn't hold your breath. They're going to continue building through the comp pick formula and the draft next month.
By the way, Mr. Producer brings up a really good point. A guy, a veteran, 36 years old, been in the league since 2011, like Cam Jordan, can afford to wait till after the draft where he would not count towards the comp pick formula. So a lot of this stuff, guys, is probably the Broncos just kicking the can down the road a little bit. There will be other signings, just maybe not before the draft. So anyway, Sam Bam, thank you, big dog. It is amazing to see you, and we always appreciate that awesome level of support you give us, brother. Taylor Christensen, speaking of Mount Rushmore superstars, dear members, here he is saying, guys, any buzz, updates on anything, go Broncos, MHH for life. Really, the only updates we have, Zach, you had the story on it. The Broncos, they're doing a top 30 with an offensive tackle. Talk about that for a sec for Taylor.
Yeah, let me pull that up really quickly. I'm not crazy well versed on the player. His name is Jude Bowery from Boston College, left tackle. He was a 2-year starter for them. He was a team captain last season. He's considered a potential day 2 choice. So the Broncos, they don't have a first-round pick. They don't have a third-round pick. They do have a second-round pick, and that's a consideration for the Broncos right now. Jude Bowery, that would be a tough sell for me, though, Chad, because that's a top 100 selection, and you're using it on a player that wouldn't start for you right away. You have Garrett Bowles, you have McGlinchey. So that's the skinny on the visit, though, the top 30.
They must have their minds on offensive tackle because they are also hosting a virtual visit. I think they do 30 of each, 30 in person. Maybe there's not a limit on the virtuals. I'm not 100% on that, Zach. But either way, they're also meeting with Washington offensive tackle Carver Willis, though this one is virtual. So, Zach, they got offensive tackle on the brain. And as far as any additional updates or buzz, I wouldn't even call it buzz. You might say, you're nitpicking here or you're splitting hairs, Jensen. I would call it chatter. And chatter can mean a few different things. Like what I mean by it, though, is specifically speculation. A lot of it comes from the fan base, but because it comes from the fans and we get asked about it, it enters the media domain, but it doesn't mean it's a rumor, doesn't mean it's a report. And what I'm talking about chatter-wise, Zach, is are any of the receivers now expendable on the trade market? Like, are the Broncos looking to maybe take some offers for Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, etc.? And it was interesting, Marvin Mims, I don't know if you guys caught this last night, but he was live with Vic Lombardi of Altitude TV covering the Nuggets game, did a little appearance, really cool. And the question was, hey, what did you think of the Jaylen Waddle trade? Were you surprised? He said, yeah, I was surprised. And then when he was asked, hey, you guys are very similar players, you and Jaylen Waddle, Marvin Mims, where do you fit in? Are you worried about how you fit? And he said, yeah, a little bit. I'm not sure, but he still devolved back to he's a playmaker. I stand on what I can also bring to the team. It's going to be great. But Zach, it goes to show you that it's not just the fans, it's not just the press, that when a big splash move is made, people go, what could it mean for the incumbents on that depth chart? Because Marvin Mims is wondering. He made that clear yesterday.
And don't forget the history with George and Sean Payton. They've conducted a lot of their business sneakily on draft day or near draft day. Look at the JFM trade, for example. So they might still have something up their sleeve. They might still move on from a receiver, like you mentioned, whether it be Mims, Troy Franklin. I don't think they're going to trade Pat Bryant. I think Sean Payton really likes Pat Bryant. Going back to the tackle for a second, though, if anyone's thinking it's out of the ordinary, we did mention this, Chad. We brought it up a month ago or so that Sean Payton said this at the Combine. He goes, historically, we've always valued that position very highly, and we've used early capital along the offensive line. He spoke at length about the offensive line. So don't be surprised if the second-round pick is a tackle.
And Scott's reminding us here in our little private chat that he was solid at the Senior Bowl, Bowery. So he fits in, Zach, also with that that prototype the Broncos look for, which are leaders, guys who played all 4 years. In a perfect world, it's not a mandatory that they play all 4 years, that they're seniors coming out, but just food for thought there. It could be, Zach, that they finally snap the streak and draft a tackle, which would be, again, for the first time since Bolsey in 2017. We got Shannon Mills.
Whoa,
Teach
Shannon.
Shannon jumping in
Thank
off
you.
the top rope.
Thank you, Shannon.
Legend. You're an absolute legend, a dear friend, and just an awesome member of this community, Shannon. Thank you so much. She says, "Hey, Chad, Zach, Scott, and Broncos country. I had a few days off to enjoy the sunshine here in Miami. Good for you. Hope everyone is doing well." It's a check-in super chat, Zach, and it's extremely, extremely generous. And this time of year, as news starts kind of petering off, and the Broncos, let's face it, hey, the Jaylen Waddle move, it was nice. It was like manna from heaven, but they didn't make much news, right? When they should be, or at least traditionally, they're making news pretty much every day, every other day. Stuff's ricocheting around when the new league year opens. So it's been a little bit slow, is another way, what I'm really trying to say here. So thank you, Shannon. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, Shannon, it's also been a pretty long winter in terms of days and in terms of temperature, at least from where I stand. So I'm happy you're out enjoying the Miami weather, enjoying the springtime now, and enjoying what the Broncos are building, because what I think they're building is a legitimate Super Bowl contender for years to come. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes, indeed. Great to see you, Shannon, and stoked that you got to soak in some sunshine. Jeez, S's getting me there, Shannon. Love you. Much love and respect. All right, Zach, I want to get to a couple things from Albert Breer. We'll go back to the chat here, but just a little bit of background here. This is something that he wrote in regards to kind of the setup. He said, quote, "Part of the equation for the Broncos was holding Waddle up against competing options, those being either the skill player who'd be available for them with the 30th overall pick." So listen, we weren't crazy. I'm putting a pin in the quote for a second, Zach. We were like, look, you can look at giving up the first round pick, yeah, and also a third rounder, but like, oh, you gave up too much, but they were probably going to try and draft a weapon at that position anyway. So back to the point here. They were holding Waddle up against those potential options at pick 30, or a free agent, he says, who could bring a big play element to their offense. In parentheses, he puts Rashid Shaheed was the closest thing. It became increasingly clear after that research and around 15 in-depth calls they made to people like Nick Saban that Waddle was their best option, close quote. So that's Albert Breer. A few other things we'll get to on that topic, what Breer wrote today, Zach, or published. But kind of interesting that that was part of the math they were doing, was comparing what it would cost to get Waddle versus what their genuine options were, not only in the draft at pick 30, but what was actually available in a relatively weak free agent market.
Sean Payton interested in a former Saint, stop the presses there. But this is what I talked about at the beginning of the show, is they were cross-checking their alternative routes and options they could take here. And they were also doing their due diligence. And they basically said to themselves, as we posited, that Jaylen Waddle is better than anyone they are going to take at pick 30. And they were correct in that assumption. So they didn't just go into this willy-nilly. They didn't bend over for Miami. They came to, after about a week or so of negotiations with the new Dolphins GM, they came to the final trade terms, but it wasn't just the Broncos got fleeced. I think it was a very fair deal, and I still do, for both sides.
Yeah, talking about the trade terms, back to Breer for a second here. After about a week of talks, the Broncos were willing to trade the 30th pick this year and a third-round pick next year to land Waddle. Their new GM, Sullivan, balked at wanting the third-rounder to come in this year's draft. Generally, he writes, teams will look at picks a year ahead as devalued by a round. So in Miami's mind, that was basically an offer for a first this year and a fourth, because it's a third rounder next year, which is kind of interesting, Zach, kind of interesting. And as we know, they eventually came to terms, and the Broncos said, all right, we'll give you our third round pick this year if you swap us also the fourth round picks. So that allowed him to kind of move up a little bit in this year's fourth round.
You have to also think of the Broncos' 30th overall pick as a very early second rounder. It's not like it's a top 5 pick, and you're giving that up for a potential in this offense, maybe a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And a third round, the draft pick this year, I look at it the cost of doing business, because you pick swap the fourth rounder who actually moved up in the fourth round in the Jaylen Waddle trade. So a late first rounder, which is basically a high second rounder, and a third rounder, which is the cost of doing business. I think that's perfect for Jaylen Waddle.
We'll keep talking about this, guys, because there's a lot of fun little nuggets in Breer's breakdown. It's awesome. Ronk jumping in, legend.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Ron.
Mythical figure in our midst right now from MHH. Ronk, dude, as he is known in these parts, says, "Good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos." And this comes, a day after he was dropping, I think, 20 memberships for folks in the chat to MHH YouTube. So, Ronk, brother, please don't ever think in any way, shape, or form we take you for granted, dude. We appreciate you and love what you do to not only support us, but just kind of that spirit of ownership that you take. You're telling people, hey, subscribe, like, share, become a member, all that stuff, dude. Does not go unnoticed.
And we don't give out nicknames for nothing around here. You've earned your nickname, Michael. You are the mayor of the MHH podcast, and we appreciate all your mayoral services for the brand. Thank you so much.
Yeah, technically, Ronk, he's so OG, he's earned 2 organic nicknames from MHH, right? Because the Ronk and the mayor. So really cool, buddy. Appreciate your generosity, bro. We also got here Elias checking in on YouTube saying via super chat, can't wait to beat the Raiders 42-0. LMFGOOO. We know what that means. Yeah, Zach, how are you feeling about the Raiders offseason so far? I mean, they have the number 1 overall pick. They're likely, of course, and fully expected to take Mendoza. They got the new head coach. He's a Kubiak. That kind of stings a little bit. Your thoughts?
You know what? In all fairness, I do like what the Raiders have done under Tom Brady's, I guess, leadership this offseason. They've improved their defense. They've added in free agency where it's appropriate, where they should have added. They had a good nucleus on offense already, but it's going to boil down, like every other team does in the NFL, Chad, to the quarterback. If the rookie hits, then they're going to be a pretty formidable team who the Broncos are going to be in a tough battle against twice a year. If he ends up busting or takes a while to develop or get going, then they're going to be the same old Raiders. It all goes according to the quarterback with them.
Yeah, man, it's hard to say. It looks like they're doing some of the right things, but like, what was that all about? I know that was all on the Ravens, but the way the Raiders kind of got screwed in that botched trade for Max Crosby, and it's like, man, can they get anything right? I do think they made one of the better coaching hires in the cycle. Yeah. I'm excited for what Kubiak might do, but it still kind of cuts me and wounds me deep that a Kubiak, right? This is one of the legendary names. Be like a Kubiak, an Elway offspring, a Shanahan offspring, Manning, these are the great Miller, etc. These are the names, Zach, written in the stars in Mile High, coaching the Raiders. But I do think they made the right call hiring him, and especially saying, look, you get the first crack fresh out of the box, so to speak, at the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and national champion. You get Mendoza. Let's go.
For anyone's opinion on the Raiders' future prospects, I think depends on your opinion of Mendoza. And I think he could be a good, nice little NFL quarterback. And I don't say this because he's going to the Raiders. I would say this if he's going to the Titans, for example. I think he could be a good NFL starter. I just don't see generational superstar, pure, true number 1 potential in him. So we'll see what happens. Not our problem.
I have my doubts as well, Zach, I'll be honest, but I'm also going to remind everybody I wasn't all that stoked on Joe Burrow coming out. Like I was like, I'm not sure on this guy, and he ended up, of course, being the truth. However, he has struggled with injuries, so that's kind of held him back from reaching his full potential. But Elias, brother, thank you for the support, big dog. Down with the Raiders. We got the original Dizzy D.
Thank you,
the original Dizzy D. All right, checking in on Super Chat. He's been a part of this community for many moons. It's been a long time. It's good to see you, pal. He says, I want Von Miller back to retire a Bronco. And I hope getting Waddle doesn't mean a Franklin trade. I like our receiver depth, and we are lethal in the spread offense. Yeah, we'll see, dude. When I started writing it up, just kind of spitballing, could Troy Franklin be available? Like, could he be someone the Broncos could dangle? I think the best case scenario for him, Zach, is to get out of him what you gave up to get him, which is a 4th-round pick, right? They drafted him in 2024, 4th-round pick. And off the cuff, a lot of people initially respond with, "That's, you kidding me? There's no way the Broncos are getting a 4th-round pick for the." Well, let's not forget last summer. Do you remember what Devon Vele went to the New Orleans Saints for? So it's possible, and I think it's entirely dependent, Dizzy D, on whether teams call. If teams call on Troy Franklin during the draft, I think there's a decent chance he gets moved. And the same goes for Mims, but to a lesser degree. I think the Broncos will end up being, even though Mims is playing on an expired contract, like this is the last year on his deal, expiring, I should say. I think they'll be a lot stingier and demanding for anybody who's interested in Mims, just because he's not just a receiver, Zach. He's an all-pro returner. So that's a little bit more. We've already seen how precious that is to Sean Payton, and kind of the cutting off the nose despite the face stuff he'll do to preserve and protect Mims as his returner. But Franklin, Zach, that phone rings. I think they'll listen.
Yeah, I agree, Dizzy, that there's no such thing as too many weapons for Bo Nix, and you don't want to take away one just as you added one for him. But there's nothing that Troy Franklin does that's extraordinary enough to keep him around. Even Jerry Jeudy, his route running was extraordinary, was elite. His hands weren't, his mentals weren't, but his route running was. Nothing Troy Franklin does makes him untradeable in that sense. He's had drop issues, concentration issues. The Broncos drafted him, Chad, solely because I think his connection with Bo Nix. They took a flyer on him. It didn't work out. They tried making him a number 2. He's far from being a number 2. They got a true number 1 now in Jaylen Waddle, and he can do anything that Troy Franklin does and then some. So I agree with you. I think they'll try to keep Marvin Mims around. They'll try to keep Pat Bryant around. But if the phone does ring on Troy Franklin, they'll be inclined to listen to offers.
And keep in mind, Dizzy D, we're not saying the Broncos, thus we expect them to pick up the phone and start trying to, beat the bushes, so to speak, like a door knocker, salesman, like calling every GM, "Hey, any interest in Franklin?" It's if the phone rings, I think they'll be inclined to listen. It's also probably, Zach, like if someone says, "Yeah, we'll give you a conditional 6th-round pick," probably worth more to the Broncos on the roster than a conditional 6th-round pick. So we'll see. We'll see. We got Guaranteed in the house, at least as far as his handle is concerned. Zach, that's a newer name, but I got to double check it on YouTube because I hate it that we don't have the handles memorized. We know the names, but so sometimes we get it twisted. But he's saying, "God bless you both. Go Broncos." Right back at you, Guaranteed.
God bless you.
Yeah. God bless you, big dog. Thank you.
Thank you, Guaranteed.
We got Drew in the hizzy.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you for the support. He says, "Anyone that thinks we overpaid for Waddle are wrong. One of the most explosive, proven receivers just entering his prime. Do they think KC Concepcion is better? No. Same eternal pessimists that hated the Bryant and Bo pick." Shake my head. In fairness, Drew, I'm not seeing a lot of blowback from fans, at least in the communities we manage, right? We do these live chats every night. We have a big Facebook following. We got X. I don't see a lot of it. Maybe you do, Zach, but those who are going, "What the heck?" Just go back and read this. I'm with you, Drew. Go back and read this article from Albert Breer and understand the logic the Broncos went through, chains of logic to go, all right, is this worth it for us? One of the kickers was he's basically making less than Cortland Sutton on a 3-year deal, and it's 2 years plus. Then the Broncos can kind of make a decision. They'll probably have him all 3 years, but it's for a guy, as you mentioned here, in his prime, one of the best in the game, explosive, all that stuff the Broncos needed, Zach. I'm not going to say you're getting him at a discount, but it's a more favorable contract than you might have expected at first glance.
There's always going to be contrarians and trolls and haters in the fan base that will crap on everything the Broncos do just because they can. But yeah, I haven't seen it a lot in its own fan base. I have seen a little bit of pushback in like the Dolphins fan base. They think the Broncos got fleeced. They think the Dolphins ripped them off. I severely disagree with that. I'm with you, and I've been there since day one. I think it was a fair trade for both sides. He's, again, a potential top 5 receiver in the NFL, certainly a top 10 guy, and you trade a first-round pick for those type of elite weapons. Maybe not for a lesser known guy. I don't think you would have traded this amount of capital for Alec Pierce, for example. But Jaylen Waddle is a cut above Alec Pierce. And the Broncos, as you said, Drew, were wise to swing for the fences in a home run and not settle for a ground rule double with a rookie in Casey Concepcion.
Well said. Well said. And as Breer points out, we've talked about it a lot on these podcasts and everybody together. The Broncos also are recognizing that, look, a Concepcion guy, it's not that he couldn't help. It's not that he doesn't have a ceiling that could be impressive in the NFL, but this could be the last truly cost-controlled year for Bo Nix, possibly, Zach. Like, depending on when exactly they decide to extend him. So they're going all in. They can't afford to wait a year or 2, 3 years for a receiver to kind of ripen on the vine. They need a guy who can jump in. We got to win a Super Bowl right now. Like, I'm not going to say it's never going to be better chance for them, but obviously when you can pay your quarterback relative peanuts compared to what he's going to be worth, not just worth, that's what he's worth right now. Like, if Bo Nix were on the market, dude, he'd be getting 50-something million per year if he was a free agent, bro.
Easy.
And so the Broncos are paying him a fraction of that, which means they can take that money and those resources and allocate it to other spots on the roster to make this team as good as possible in the now. That's what Jaylen Waddle's about, because it's about getting that Super Bowl right now.
And that's what smart front offices do, is when you have a young franchise quarterback, preferably cost controlled, as you pointed out, you want to surround that guy with as much talent as possible and squeeze through that Super Bowl window and hoist the Lombardi trophy. The Broncos were this close to doing that without Bo Nix last year and with a lack of weapons around him. I applaud the Broncos for going all in, because that's what best front offices do. Chicago did it for Caleb Williams. New England did it for Drake May. Even Philly did it a few years ago for Jalen Hurts. And now the Broncos are doing it for Bo Nix. I give them full credit.
Keith, he's checking in on Facebook tonight instead of YouTube. That's all good, brother. Dear member, we're either side, Facebook, YouTube. We prefer YouTube for reasons we don't need to get into. You guys have heard us complain about Facebook. We got DJ Capo checking in, a dear member, a bona fide superstar, rocking his Bo Nix jersey in the profile pic. Love it, dude. He says, "What's up, Broncos fan? We need a running back, tight end, and offensive tackle. Broncos for life." Well, in case you missed it, DJ, at the top of the show, we were talking about a couple of draft visits. The Broncos are on the record for both of which that we talked about tonight are offensive tackles. So it would seem that's on their mind. Doesn't mean they end up drafting one, but it's on their mind at least. Running back, tight end, Zach. This is one of those, two of those, I should say, positions where there is a major disconnect between how it's perceived outside the building and how it's perceived internally. And I don't think we're going to be able to reconcile it. Like, the Broncos, I think, love where they're at both positions. That doesn't mean they won't draft to it. They're just not going to go out and sign someone.
That's the perfect way to put it. Yeah, the inside perception and the outside perception to these positions is obviously on different wavelengths here, because the Broncos ran it back at running back and tight end. And I don't know that running back is a need right now, because on paper, if J.K. Dobbins does stay healthy, it's a pretty big if. He's one of the best running backs in the league. And R.J. Harvey is a great backup number 2 to have. You brought back McLaughlin and Bidet. You'll enhance that position in the draft. But if they didn't sign Dobbins again, yeah, it would be a need. It'd be a screaming need. A tight end, that to me, and it's all subjective, that as Chad just laid out, tight end right now is more of a need than running back, because if you're running both back the same, Chad, running back is a lot stronger than tight end was. That was one of the worst rooms in the entire league last year. And I'm sorry, but Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, and Lucas Kroll don't move me. But DJ, fortunately for you, I would presume the Broncos will attack all these positions in the draft next month.
I'm still optimistic in Evan Ingram, for what it's worth. Like, I still think that we've only seen the tip of the iceberg in terms of what he's capable of, and maybe what Sean Payton had in mind with the signing. So I'm staying. That's not me guaranteeing all of a sudden year 2 he's going to like blow up, but I'm staying optimistic that the best is yet to come. And yet, Zach, it was one of the worst for multiple metrics tight end rooms in the NFL last year, but the Broncos love their guys. I could see them drafting both positions, just not going out and spending any additional money besides what they spent bringing their guys back. Real quick here, Ira on Facebook, who has been very active in the comment section, I would say, like, especially the last week. Really cool to have you with us on Facebook, Ira. She's saying, "I hope we get that tight end everybody's talking about." Well, that tight end is probably David Njoku that everybody's talking about because he's still out there. But I just don't see it happening, guys. Like, I want it to happen. I've tried to use the secret and will it into existence, visually putting it into the universe. The Broncos, they got some kind of dome over that, though. It's my secret's going all my willpower trying to bring David Njoku. They got some kind of shield up. It's not penetrating.
Number one, I'm surprised he's still available. I don't know what's going on there, if he's demanding too much money or the medicals came back funny or whatever. Number two, like you said, if the Broncos wanted to sign him, I feel like we would have heard some interest by now. And number three, just to tie on to the last point about Evan Ingram, I'm kind of with you. My biggest gripe isn't that Ingram is still tight end one. My biggest gripe is they brought back Adam Troutman on a 3-year deal, by the way, to be tight end two. That's what bothers me more.
I know. It's like, blows my mind that it's one thing to bring him back. I honestly would have expected that they were going to bring him back, seriously. But like in the same way they brought back Kroll, in the same way they brought back Nate Atkins, maybe a little bit more money. Like both those guys were brought back at, I think, pretty dang close to vet minimum. So maybe you bring Troutman back a little bit more than that because he's a veteran guy, he's a Peyton guy, whatever. But vastly overpaying him. Vastly. I mean, he came in at just under $6 million per year on a 3-year contract. There are very few moves that off the bat, George Payton and Sean Payton have made as a tandem that just rub me wrong. That's number one. Like that is maybe the number one where I'm like, there's just something about it that does not sit right in my gut.
This is up there for me with the Melvin Gordon contract. And I know we harped on that for years in podcast, Chad, but it's that egregious. It's that egregious amount of money to give a player who does not deserve it. I'm sorry. He does nothing overly well. I wish Adam Troutman well. He's probably a good guy. I'd like to chat with him, but he's not worth $6 million a year. I'm sorry.
By the way, Ira was talking about not David Njoku. She's talking about Kenyon Sadiq. That ship has sailed, my friend. You just gotta tip your cap, wave goodbye.
Yeah.
Adios. He's gone. He's outside Denver's reach, unfortunately. Albert, what's up, brother? The Mile High Dutchie checking in. Good to see you. We got Tucson Phil also in the house on Facebook, showing us some love, dude. Great to have you, Phil. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. I was reading that Bo has a $5.1 million cap hit this season, ranking him 35th at the position. Meanwhile, Jarrett Stidham's getting paid $8 million. Gonna have to pay our boy soon, plus maybe pick up a new backup quarterback. Hashtag Buckham MHH for life, Broncos for life. Yeah, so Bo Nix. Let me get over to the Denver Broncos here and pull it up. Stand by, guys. There we go. All right. So Denver Broncos salary cap. I'll do some scratch and sniff. We'll look at this together, Phil. I'm going to pop you off the screen here for a second so that I can bring on over the cap. And hopefully you guys can see this pretty good. Let me get rid of these pop-ups. All right. So as you can see here, is it readable, Zach?
It's not on the screen.
It's not? Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys.
That's good.
How about now? Can you see it?
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So kind of crazy that the number one cap hit on the team is your right tackle, $23 million, Mike McGlinchey. But as we scroll and we scroll and we scroll, whoa, there's Bo Nix right here. So we look at his numbers, his actual cap hit, just over $5 million this season. And then scroll up, Jarrett Stidham. He's got that $8 million cap hit. So yes, Bo Nix, Zach, imagine this. We'll say 2 years from now, Bo Nix will be right up here, number one. And his cap number is going to be something like, I mean, who knows at the end of the day? It balloons year in and year out for quarterbacks. But, Zach, I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere between the most conservative estimate, $40 million, and into the 50s per year for Bo Nix.
Yeah, the answer is yes to the Bo Nix contract. He's going to get just a massive contract, and he's going to deserve it, and rightfully so. He'll be the number one, the cap carrier on the Broncos table here. But if you scroll down to Bo Nix's salary cap number, neither here nor there, just want to make my point. Right below Bo as you see there, is Jaylen Waddle, who checks in not even at $5 million against the cap for 2026. So for anyone who thinks the Broncos got ripped off or it's a bad trade, just look at this. You're getting a number one wide receiver for your franchise quarterback in a Super Bowl window for under $5 million. Great move.
$5 million this season. Now, that does it does get a little bit dicier after this year. The Broncos had the option. They could have either taken the lower cap hit this year on Waddle or the lower cap next year. They decided to take it this year because they're all in, right? They're trying to compete. But if we look at his deal next season, his base salary alone is $24 million, almost anyway. So his cap number next year will be higher. But again, Zach, you look at comparison to Cortland Sutton, if this bad boy will load for me. Come on over the cap. Where are you? There he is. Cortland. All right. His cap number this season is only 13.9. So we'll call it 14 million. But if you look at next season for the age 31 receiver, who will be age 32 at this point, next season, his cap hit is higher than Jaylen Waddle. Just kind of interesting, right? And that's something as well that Breer brought up in that awesome article breakdown he had, is that, look, you're getting Jaylen Waddle at his age, still well into his early prime years, Zach, and technically you're getting him for cheaper than you're paying your guy, Cortland Sutton. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and this is the year, maybe not necessarily 2027 or 2028, but this is the year, like we talked about, Chad, where the Broncos are going all in. They're loading up. They're going for the Lombardi. They're going for the Super Bowl. And that was why, part of the reason why the trade is so appropriate for them is because even for this year, the all-in year, $5 million for Waddle, sign me the freak up.
By the way, Scott's bringing up here that the fifth-year option for quarterbacks last season, and this is for quarterbacks without an official Pro Bowl selection on their resume yet, $26 million. So the Broncos, yeah, they have them under team control through 28 because they can use that fifth year, but they're not going to do that. They're going to keep him happy, I'm guessing, Zach, and they're going to probably extend him. Maybe not like as soon as it's feasibly possible, but they're not going to keep him waiting too long, I don't think, just because, Bo Nix has already done a lot for this franchise, helping to turn the ship around. So anyway, kind of fun stuff. Thank you for that, Phil. Let's see some other thoughts here from folks in the chat. Let's see, talking about the weather for Storm Bless for our buddy Chandler. All right. We got weather talk. That's cool. Ronk says, I'd rather have a veteran NFL player than a rookie player. Yeah, just, it depends on the position. But in this case, like if what we're talking about here, Zach, is Jaylen Waddle, proven guy, versus taking a chance on what would probably be a very talented guy with some upside in the draft, it's kind of a no-brainer.
And the Broncos front office agrees with you, Ronk. They would rather have the proven commodity over the potential moonshot.
Mblex reminding everybody, join the MHH Discord server. The link, guys, is in the description of this video. I think it's the first link, the top link. So come join us over there. Big Earn, what's up, pal? On Facebook, good to see you. Here's Storm Bless. Listen, anything bad for the Raiders is a bonus for the Broncos. I don't care if Kubiak's there. Raiders are a trash organization with Davis in charge. Yeah, I will always, Zach, equate. Sounds harsh, and I probably shouldn't say this, but dirty, trash, words like this with the Raiders.
Low class. That's the best way to put it. And that's what they're going to say, I think, in the AFC West basement. I don't think we're going to have to worry about them, despite what they've done this offseason. That Broncos are just an order of magnitude better than they are right now.
Patrick, good to see you, big dog. Aloha, right back at you. I'm trying to see what they're talking about. Let's see. By the way, yes, Aqib Talib. I'm not sure exactly what you guys are talking about between he and Skip relative to right this second, but Aqib Talib, man, he basically broke the news. He didn't use the name, but Jaylen Waddle, that whole thing went down. The news broke Tuesday morning, and it was Monday evening, afternoon, whatever, Zach, that he came out on that episode with Skip Bayless saying the Broncos are going to have an explosion player, and it's coming soon. I can't tell you who, I can't tell you what, but it's coming soon. He was right.
He said it. Remember, Lieb said it, and we remember Lieb said it, so good on him.
Yeah. Kirsten says, listen, it was a fair trade for both sides. It equaled the 26th pick, and they're eating most of his money this season. They, meaning the Dolphins. Absolutely true. Excellent point, Kirsten. Uh, Triple C checking in, a dear member, saying, I love the Waddle deal. It makes sense to me, but after not doing anything for forever in free agency, kind of had to. Yeah, I mean, but we learned, Zach, what one of the reasons they were dragging their feet was they were they were this close. And George Payton, if you read this Breer article, he believed and trusted that GM in Miami, the new guy Sullivan, that his initial offers and everything that they were discussing, that Sullivan wasn't then taking those offers that he was getting from Payton and shopping it to the rest of the league. Like he was keeping it as a single channel deal. Somehow, and I don't think it mentions it though, Zach, in Breer's article, the Bills caught wind, or at least the Bills were also interested in Jaylen Waddle, but they ultimately ended up dealing him to Denver. Thank goodness.
I think there is an important distinction to be made, though, Colby. It's not that the Broncos didn't do anything. It's not that the Broncos got Waddle because they didn't do anything in free agency. It's that they didn't do anything in free agency because they were getting Jaylen Waddle. There was no one on the open market they could have signed, even including George Pickens, who's on a franchise tag, that would have been better, more explosive, higher upside, or a better fit for this offense than Jaylen Waddle. So I love it regardless. And as we've come to find out, they're still measured. They picked up Tyson Anderson. We don't think they're done yet, but Jaylen Waddle makes up for, to me, all the other inactivity.
And again, guys, Scott's bringing up a great point. It's almost like they're handcuffing themselves right now for making some of these slightly higher profile moves. Like, look, Cam Jordan, for example, he's 36, he's older and all that stuff. But if you sign him, it's a higher profile guy. This is a proven dude. He's decorated player. He's older, but he's decorated. They're going to wait on that kind of stuff. But I predict, Zach, once it stops counting toward the comp pick formula, you'll start seeing some well placed moves because they have something like 20 million. I mean, I'm at over the cap. I guess I could look at it right now, but they're at 20 million. So let's see, 19.1. So it looks like the Tyson Anderson thing finally hit. They're at 19.1 million, Zach, in effective cap space, and they only need a fraction of that to sign a draft class this summer that does not include a first or a third round pick.
And they started the offseason with about 20 million in available cap space. So to be at this point after picking up Jaylen Waddle, again, A plus for George and Sean Payton.
And what's cool is they still have means and methods by which they could actually free up more cap space. Now, some of those means and methods, like they got to be smart because they might need to lean on those means and methods, Zach, when it comes time to like pay Bo Nix and whatnot. But like Mike McGlinchey is still approachable about restructure if you needed to bring in more cap space. Talanoa Hufanga is another guy. There are some options. It's just, again, we've seen it. They've signaled it without saying it out loud, Zach. We believe in running it back because we are uber confident, almost bordering on arrogant about our roster from last year, which again was one Bo Nix ankle injury away from the Super Bowl. So it's hard to fault them too much, even though it robs us of our joy of this time of year. Like we have so few tentpole moments to look forward to after football stops during the offseason. So it feels like they kind of robbed us of that, but they believe in what they're doing. And that's part of the reason why you're not seeing the big moves. They love their team as is.
I think Breer really put it best in his article. He goes, for the Broncos, their roster is the point where they have few holes left to fill. They still have 7 picks and 3 of the top 111 in 2026 and project to have 10 for 2027 with comp picks for JFM and PJ Locke factored in. That's the best way to sum it all up, Chad. They're in a good position right now.
Yes, sir. And the most important thing, franchise quarterback, and he'll be healthy for the 2026 season. Phil jumping in again saying, I have 4 players we resigned that are on the roster bubble. Jaleel McLaughlin, Matt Henningsen, Lucas Kroll, and Matt Pert. Who goes? So I'm not trying to be that guy, Phil, but Matt Pert was a restructure, although he did have to sign it, apparently, so it technically counts, I guess. So, all those guys are definitely on the bubble for sure. But the one guy who I could see surviving things is Jaleel. I'm going to pick 2. I'm going to go Jaleel and Pert as the most likely to survive because Jaleel, I think they still love him, Zach. They're not like overcome with that love to where they're seeing things in him that aren't there. Like they're not like blinded by Jalil. They recognize what he is and the limits in terms of what he can provide this team as a backup running back. But dude, look at what he did last year when they finally dressed him after JK went down and started. All right, you're the number 2 guy. Dude, he finished over 5 yards per carry on the season. So he's a guy that, has a real chance, and we know how hard he works. Pert though, Zach, getting Palczewski re-signed like that and the money that's now on the books, the thing you got to think about, if you cut Matt Pert, who's the backup left tackle?
Yeah, I think all 4 of these guys could be cut by the time the season rolls around. They're hanging on by a thread. And if the Broncos attack the offense and scale the roster aggressively, I think they will be in the unemployment line by September. But I'll go Jaleel. I'll agree with you on the premise about that. But with Pert, I feel like they went up to him and been like, listen, Matt, we're either going to cut you or you're going to take a pay cut or restructure, whatever he did. And he ended up restructuring. I don't know, though, Chad, if that enables or guarantees him roster security. I'm going to change it up slightly and go Lucas Kroll, if only because they're so limited right now. Tough question to answer on March 23rd for the rest of the season, but right now they're so limited on upside in the tight end room. And I feel like for whatever reason, Sean really likes Lucas Kroll's upside.
And if you guys are wondering who Henningsen is, this was a 22 6th round pick. Was he? I think he was 2022 6th round pick. Might have been 2023, but hey, started losing out, ended up being a practice squad guy. Then he got hurt last year, missed the whole season, and they still threw him a contract to come back. He's a good example of no guarantees, Matt. Here's $1 million contract, but no guarantees. You're going to have to sing for your supper this summer. However, defensive line, Zach, they got to come up with some answers because, no more JFM. He's taken his 14 and a half sacks over the last 2 years with him to Tennessee. So they got to come up with something. We got the Duchess in the house from the top rope. Here comes Michaela with the elbow. Boom. So good to see you. Back-to-back nights. We're blessed. Love you, Michaela. She says, I love MHH. Best pod ever. Sorry I'm late. For some reason, after the Waddle trade, I'm not as big into the draft. Well, I think, Zach, we can probably deduce what that reason is.
Yeah.
You don't have the mystique of the first-round pick and the scrutiny and all that anticipation. Now it's like, but think about this, Michaela. This is very similar to those first 2 drafts after the Russ trade, where the Broncos didn't have a first-round pick. But boy, oh boy, Zach, did we suddenly care all that much more about the second round.
Yeah, and they don't have a 3rd rounder either. So I understand from Michaela's point of view how she's feeling. But your first-round pick, Michaela, was Jaylen Waddle. Look at it that way. And that's a pretty damn good first-round pick to make. You have your second-round pick. They still have 7 picks overall. They have a couple 7th-rounders. They have multiple other picks as well. They can maneuver around. So I could see the sentiment, and for the same reason Chad said, and also after the Sean Payton trade, I understand the sentiment. But Jaylen Waddle's your first-round draft pick. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, so I know it, but I think that's something most Broncos fans are going to struggle with between now and then, is like a little bit of the enthusiasm for the draft and the romance of it is always going to be sapped a little when you don't have a first-round pick. Yeah. But Zach just laid out for you the mindset to maintain in order to stay stoked. So thank you for checking in. As always, Michaela, we appreciate and love you, and your insights are always valuable to us. Real quick here, Scott's checking in to say, I can't believe, by the way, on Facebook, that Jalil's on the bubble. He runs harder than Bidet and Harvey. He's a beast. They're crazy, easily over Bidet. So look, I like him, but let's not pretend he's, Barry Sanders. They're about the same size, although Barry's was way thicker, obviously. Nevertheless, Jalil McLaughlin, he has a place on this team, but on the 53-man roster, it's really going to depend this time, Zach. Like if they draft a guy, unfortunately, we saw it last season. Who did they prioritize with those top 4 backs when it came to JK, Harvey, Bidet, and McLaughlin? When it came to dressing, McLaughlin was an odd man out for half the season. They were going with Bidet dressing him instead of McLaughlin. So if push came to shove, Zach, and I'm guessing, and it came down to roster math, and they're going, oh, we drafted this running back, which, by the way, they also have Cody Schrader and Deuce Vaughn that'll be competing at running back this summer. So all bets are off on those guys. But especially if they draft a guy, Zach, like It's going to come down to McLaughlin or Bidet. Right now, if I had to make a bet, just based on what I've seen and the way the team kind of operates with these two guys, I'm going to guess McLaughlin's the guy on the outside looking in. Doesn't mean he's gone, but he's probably on the practice squad.
That's why it's so tough, like I said earlier, to answer this question on March 23rd about how the Broncos week 1 roster is going to look. I mean, so many things can change. They can look for post-June first cuts. They can swing another trade. They can draft a running back. This position could look a lot different, and we'll answer it, with better detail and clarity after the draft.
That's a good way of mind setting this, Kirsten. There's a nice shiny present under the tree in the second round. Now let's just hope and pray the Broncos don't Ryan Johnson us once again and subvert expectations and then trade out of the second round. Bite my tongue even as I say it. No, Chad, can't happen. Rodney, what's up, bro? Checking in, longtime superstar. Good to see you, pal. He says, good evening, gents. Just got done at the gym. Yeah, dude, getting yoked. Staying healthy. Love that. Why did we give Troutman that deal? For real, man. We are the football priests, Zach. So you can't even say preaching to the converted. He's preaching to the preachers here. Like, we feel your pain, dog.
Yeah, man. I don't know, Rodney, because like Chad said earlier, he's a Sean Payton guy, and Sean Payton values his guys much higher than any other team would. No other NFL team. There's 31 others, not including the Broncos. They would not pay Adam Troutman a 3-year deal, nor would they pay him $6 million or around per year for him. The Broncos, same reason they brought back Lil Jordan Humphrey for like what feels like the 10th season in a row. Sean Payton loves his guys. That's why, Chad, it was so surprising when he finally fired Joe Lombardi. Like, you're finally moving on from one of your guys for the betterment of your team. Wow, it's surprising. Then he goes and gives Troutman a 3-year deal. I don't know, Rodney. He knows Sean Payton. That's the best answer I can give you.
We're mystified, brother. We're mystified on that front. So anyway, buddy, thank you for the support, and we'll go on scratching our collective heads on the whole Troutman thing, which, by the way, I almost forgot to bring this up. If you guys remember, so the legal tampering window opened 2 weeks ago today, all right, that morning. Well, Troutman was re-signed, the news of it, anyway, Zach, the day before, on Sunday, before the legal tampering window. When that stuff started coming out about him defending himself and that I don't care what anyone says, I'm one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL and stuff. And then we learned from him that other teams were interested. How? Because if they were expressing interest before the legal tampering window opened, then they were tampering. So it just goes to show you, not that what he says is necessarily untrue, that there weren't, I'm not saying there wasn't interest, but the legal tampering thing, guys, can we just be done with this? Like, teams tamper, dude. It is what it is.
It's untrue that he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. That is statistically and provably untrue. So Adam Troutman can have as big of a head as he wants and think as highly of himself as he wants. It is definitely objectively untrue. And I'd like to know those teams. Name them. Who are the teams that were negotiating with Adam Troutman that were going to pay him comparably to what the Broncos did? I don't know why I'm getting so angry about this, but it's just like one of the worst, most egregious contracts I can remember.
Phil wants to know, so what's the cap hit for Adam Troutman? This season, Trout is at, standby, he is at 3.3333. It's like threes infinity, 3.3 million in terms of cap hit, 1.745 million in base salary, and then he gets a bunch of bonuses and stuff like that. But if you look at, real quick, if we look at his contract after 26, so 27, Zach, he'll have a base salary of 4.9 million, so just shy of 5 million, plus per game roster bonuses, guaranteed stuff, blah, blah. So his cap number this season is only 3.3 million, but next year it's 6.8, and the year after that it's 6.8.
3.3 is an okay salary to pay a blocking tight end, an elite blocking tight end, if he was, but he's not. So it's too much for him.
Logic. It is what it is, guys. Joey's like trying to troll us right now. Troutman's amazing.
Yeah. Amazingly mid.
It's like Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny when he does the slide. He's trying to learn how to be awesome and be like a rock guitar god, and he thinks that KG Kyle Gass is going to show him the ropes, and he does the slide across the knee slide like Pete Townsend, and he looks to him, he's like, how was that? And he goes, amazing. Lee bad. That's Trout. He's amazing. Lee bad at blocking, and then amazingly average as a receiver. He's like league average receiver guy.
Just does nothing overly well. So he can do this all he wants. We all know the truth. The tape doesn't lie. Tape don't lie at him.
Guys, hit me with ones in the chat if you've seen Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny. I mean, come on now. You got to let me know. Yes, Shannon, common sense is not always common. It's true. And it's become more and more true. Maybe it's the older I get. I don't know. But Michaela calls him Fishman. Yeah, Troutman, Fishman. It's fair. All right, guys, we got a few messages for you. While Zach's running through these messages, don't go anywhere because I'm going to be going through and grabbing a couple last few comments, questions from folks, our members, especially in the chat. We'll get them before we dip. Don't leave.
Tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you haven't done so, please join the new MHH Discord server. The link is in the description below. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, 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 very important as always that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Amen to that. All right, a couple comments and questions from the members. Todd says, I hope we draft a running back by the name of Mike Washington in the second round. However, the Arkansas dude that blew up the combine. However, I do not believe that would mean we then get rid of 2 running backs. Well, there's only so much room at the end, right? And so again, today I was reminded of this as I was doing the updated depth chart post free agency. So you got the 4 guys we've talked about already tonight, Zach. Dobbins, Harvey, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Tyler Bidet. And then you have the 2 guys they signed to futures contracts that spent time on the practice squad last year, Cody Schrader and Deuce Vaughn. So that's 6 guys. Let's say you draft Washington. Now you got 7 guys. They're not going to carry more than 4 because they're also going to carry a fullback. So they're not going to carry, 6 running backs on the roster. Someone's out. Someone will be out, but maybe not 2, Zach.
Well, I think the Broncos kind of showed their hand. Not only did they run it back at running back, but the running back they brought back to run it back, that's saying, repeating those words a lot. They gave Dobbins, what I'm trying to say here, not just a 1-year deal. They gave him a pretty rich 2-year deal. So that says that they're confident he's going to be the starter. They're confident in RJ Harvey as the backup. And at this point, Todd, I wouldn't hate it. I think Mike Washington's going to be a good player, but they need help at tight end still, at linebacker along the offensive line. I'd be surprised they went running back in round 2.
And I know that that's the guy that Nick and Eric took this morning for Mock Draft Monday. He was there at 62. I don't think Washington in real life, Zach, is going to be there at 62. I think he'll end up going way, way earlier than that. So, but I would love it. I'm with you. Like, I'll believe it when I see it. I would love Washington. Like, you're not getting Jeremiah Love. The next 2 guys for me are kind of a toss-up between Washington and Jadarian Price from Notre Dame. All right, Shannon, they like Tyler Bidet because of his special teams playing ability. That's definitely part of it. But also, they just, for whatever reason, Zach, I'm not sure that how in their minds it's better than Jaleel, because we know how hard Jaleel McLaughlin, Zach, has worked to hone his receiving chops and put in the extra time and work to improve in that area. But they love him as the 3rd down back. Part of that comes down to, I'm sure, Zach, blocking. They trust Bidet. Even though size-wise, Bidet's only a little bit heavier than McLaughlin, but they trust him to get it done better than Jaleel McLaughlin.
To me, though, like anything that Bidet can contribute positively on special teams doesn't negate the negative he brings to the offense. And maybe it's my own bias. Maybe I should study the tape more, go back and watch last season's highlights. But every time Bidet was on the field in a passing situation or a 3rd down or whatever, and the ball went his way or the play was designed to flow his way, it always got messed up. And it didn't happen with the other running backs. So I'm not the biggest fan of Bidet, and I hope the Broncos can move on from that position.
The Ronk throwing down deuce, top
Thank you, Ron.
shelf, top rope,
Thank you.
super chats tonight with an awesome parting message saying, great show tonight, Chad and Zach on the MHH podcast. Go Bo Broncos. Thank you so much, dude. Seriously, Ronk. We really, really appreciate you. And we know that you've worked hard in your life to make that money. And by sending it our way, we take it as a massive badge of honor and a great responsibility. I hope you know that. So we're going to keep working hard as we do for you and everybody else, man. So thank you. That your support allows us to do that. So appreciate you, big dog.
And then you're gifting 20 MHH memberships as we close out the show on top of that, Rock. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. As Chad said there, it doesn't go unnoticed. It helps us out tremendously, and we appreciate each and every contribution. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And Ronk, you got to get this in your brain, dude. One of these days, we got to get you out to the meet and greet when the season rolls around. So start thinking about it. And if you need any kind of insight, help, advice on how to get there, where to stay, all that stuff, feel free to DM me on X. You can always email me, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. We'd love to see you at one of the meet and greets, bro. I know you live a hop, skip, and a jump away from Mile High, but anything we can do to help make that happen at some point, we'd love it to meet you in the flesh, bro. So, all right, last one here from Perlman. We got to go. How much of Cortland Sutton's money is guaranteed? So when the Broncos extended Cortland Sutton on his last deal, he got a 4-year contract. This was last summer, by the way, guys, July, worth $92 million, $41 million of which came in the form of total guarantees. So he is basically, he's here through, for sure, through 27. Let's see. We go, we'll leave it cut post June 1st. So really, he's probably here through, for sure, 2026. They could start thinking about Zach doing different things after 2026, but they'd still have $6 million dead if they cut him in each of the next 2 years after that. So if he starts, basically what happens, Zach, they structured the deal in a way that rewards him, gives him money up front, guarantees all that stuff, but also kind of protects him in the event that Father Time, undefeated, he's on the wrong side of 30. If he hits that wall, and some receivers, Zach, hit it harder, right? Like when it happens, the fall off is like way more palpable and obvious. They're protected in the event that happens.
Yeah, you laid it out perfectly. I think Sutton is pretty guaranteed to be on the roster in 26, and I'm excited to see him in the wide receiver 2 role finally, the complementary, the Robin and not the Batman. I think it's going to make him better and make the Broncos offense better.
All right, guys, Mile High salute, a special shout out to all the awesome superstars, supporters, dear members, helping us keep the lights on tonight. From the top to the bottom, we got Sam Bam checking in, Papa Bear, Taylor Christensen, Shannon Mills, Ronk going off twice on Super Chat, Elias, Dizzy D, Guaranteed. Awesome to have you, bud. Drew, let's see, DJ Capo, Tucson Phil, a couple times on Facebook, The Duchess, Michaela Parker, Rodney, and then, of course, I want to highlight Ronk again because he also threw down 2 massive supers and gifted 20 MHH YouTube memberships in the chat. So love you guys. Zach and I, as a tandem, we're taking tomorrow off. We'll be back Wednesday night, but don't forget, if you are a member, and this includes the 20 of you that were just gifted memberships from the Ronk, Kelberman's Corner tomorrow, noon Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for the members only. Can't wait.
Can't wait is right. I will see you there tomorrow afternoon. Chad and I will see you back Wednesday evening. Have a great rest of your night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.